All right, today we're diving into a classic fable about two friends, one big plan, and a single harvest that ends up revealing everything about who they really are. Let's get into the story of the magpie robin and the crow. So, at the very center of this story, you've got two birds who couldn't be more different. First, there's the magpie robin. She's diligent, she's ready to work. And then you have the crow, who, well, let's just say he's not. This basic difference right here is what drives the entire fable. Now, even though they were polar opposites, these two were apparently the best of friends. And one day, the magpie robin gets this great idea. Hey, why don't we team up, farm a field together, and split everything we make? On the surface, it sounds like a perfect plan. So that's the deal they strike. They agree to split all the work and then split the harvest right down the middle. 50-50. Simple, fair, and square. I mean, what could possibly go wrong? Well, as soon as it's time to actually get your hands, or wings, dirty, the cracks in this partnership start to show. You've got one partner ready to go, while the other suddenly has a whole list of reasons he can't make it. The very next morning, the magpie robin is up bright and early, ready for that first big job, plowing the field. She heads over to the crow's house to get this whole thing rolling. But when she calls for him, the crow's got an excuse ready to go. And this line right here, yeah, you're going to want to get used to it. He claims he just needs a second to get himself ready, telling her to go on ahead and that he'll be there in a flash. So, the ever-trusting magpie robin flies to the field and starts the back-breaking work. She plows and plows all day long, waiting for her partner. But the crow? He's a total no-show. She ends up finishing the entire field alone. All right, so a few days go by and it's time for the next big step. The field's all plowed and now it's time to sow the millet seeds. So the magpie robin once again goes to get her business partner. And what do you think she hears? The exact same excuse. Yep, the crow is still getting ready, still promising he'll be there any minute. You can see the pattern here, right? This isn't a one-time thing. This is his whole strategy. So no surprise here, the result is exactly the same. The magpie robin, bless her heart, goes out there and sows every last seed in that field all by herself, while the crow is probably still sharpening his beak. Time goes on, the seeds sprout, the millet grows. And then, the big day finally arrives. Harvest time. This is it. This is the moment all of her hard work has been building towards. So for the third and final time, the magpie robin calls for the crow, and for the third time, she gets the same tired excuse, he's still not ready. The harvest is waiting, but his wings, apparently, still need fluttering. Exhausted but determined to see it through, the magpie robin harvests the entire crop. She did the plowing, she did the sowing, and now she's done all the reaping. Every single bit of the work is finally done, all by one bird. But hang on, the story isn't over. See, the magpie robin isn't just a hard worker. She's also incredibly smart. With all the millet collected, she knows it's finally time to divide the rewards, and she comes up with a clever plan to make sure things end up fair. So she carefully separates the good stuff, the valuable grain, from all the worthless junk, the chaff and husks. But instead of making two equal piles, she creates two very, very different options for her partner to choose from. And now we get to the best part, the moment of truth. The magpie robin calls the crow over and tells him it's time for the one part of the job he's actually been waiting for, getting paid. She shows him the two choices. Pile number 1 is small, but it's dense and heavy. It's pure, valuable grain. Pile number 2 is enormous. It looks super impressive, but it's really just a big, fluffy pile of useless garbage. So think about this. The crow, who did absolutely none of the work, has no idea what he's even looking at. All he knows is what he sees. He's lazy and he's greedy. So which pile do you think he's going to go for? Oh, he doesn't hesitate for a second. He yells, "The big pile is mine, the little one is yours," and dives right into his massive prize, only to get completely buried in a cloud of dust and useless husks. He got exactly what he worked for, a mouthful of dirt. And the magpie robin, she just smiles, picks up her small, heavy, and incredibly valuable pile of grain, the true fruit of her labor, and flies home, totally content and fairly rewarded. So what's the lesson in all of this? This simple little story is actually packed with some pretty big truths about work, about fairness, and, about the consequences of the choices we make. At its heart, this whole fable is a warning against laziness. The crow felt so entitled that he thought he could skip all the work but still cash in on the reward. In the end, his harvest was just as empty as his effort. So let's just quickly break down the key takeaways. First, a real partnership needs equal effort. You can't just show up on payday. Second, appearances can be seriously deceiving. The biggest pile isn't always the best one. Third, true value is something you create through hard work. It doesn't just happen. And finally, the big one. Laziness and greed are a surefire recipe for loss. This whole story leaves us with one last question to think about. We all have our own fields we're trying to cultivate in our careers, our relationships, our personal goals. So it's worth asking yourself, are you putting in the work to make sure your harvest is pure grain, or are you just building a big old pile of chaff?